Although the American schooling system tends to blur the details on a lot of historical facts, nearly every one of us who has gone through a basic history course is familiar with the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. A portion of this history that barely receives any attention is what happened to those that were able to survive these attacks. While I wish I could tell you about the cool superpowers people developed that various governments may or may not be trying to keep under wraps, that would be a story for a way more unhinged YouTube channel. I'm Think So Joe, this is Things You Might Not Know, and in this video, I'm going to tell you all about the man that survived not one, but 2 atomic bombs within 1 week. In the early morning hours of August 6, 1945, the American Boeing B-27 Superfortress, the Enola Gay, approached the island nation of Japan. Inside this B-29 was a nuclear bomb known best by its nickname, Little Boy. At 8:15 a.m. local time, the Enola Gay dropped Little Boy on the city of Hiroshima, effectively marking the beginning of the end of the Pacific conflicts of World War II. It exploded with the energy of approximately 15 kilotons of TNT, immediately killing approximately 70,000 people. Among the dead were mostly civilians and Korean slave laborers. Those that survived the initial blast and the eventual radiation poisoning that is inevitable in these situations came to be known as hibakusha, which roughly translates to person affected by a bomb or person affected by exposure to radioactivity. One such hibakusha was Japanese marine engineer Tsutomu Yamaguchi, who was in Hiroshima on what is possibly one of the unluckiest business trips imaginable. During this time, Yamaguchi was an employee of Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, for whom he worked as a draftsman designing oil tankers. On the morning of August 6th, Yamaguchi was on his way to the train with 2 colleagues preparing to leave the city as their business responsibilities had concluded. Realizing that he had left his identification behind, Yamaguchi went back to retrieve it. Little Boy landed on the center of Hiroshima as Yamaguchi made his way back to the train. He was approximately 3 kilometers away from the blast, but amazingly survived. Of course, he didn't come out unscathed. The explosion ruptured his eardrums, blinded him temporarily, and left him with some pretty serious radiation burns. Yamaguchi was able to locate the colleagues he had left behind earlier, and all 3 stayed overnight in an air raid shelter. The trio of survivors left the next morning to go back to their home, a city 186 miles away called Nagasaki. After being treated medically upon arrival to Nagasaki and getting a small amount of additional rest, Tsutomu Yamaguchi returned to work only a couple of days later on August 9th. While returning to work that quickly after a catastrophe is tragically normal sounding to most American service industry workers in 2021, Yamaguchi's boss at Mitsubishi didn't think this was sane behavior. At 11 o'clock that morning, just as Yamaguchi's supervisor was berating him for being crazy enough to show up to work so soon, the B-29 bomber Boxcar dropped the atomic bomb known as Fat Man on Nagasaki. In one of the oddest cosmic coincidences that I've ever heard of, Yamaguchi was once again 3 kilometers from the explosion, with this one immediately killing approximately 35,000 to 40,000 people. The majority of the dead were once again civilians, many of which were munitions and industrial workers. This time around, Yamaguchi was lucky enough to not suffer any immediate injuries, but did suffer from a high fever and a continuous vomiting for over a week. After World War II concluded, Tsutomu Yamaguchi and his wife, also a survivor of the Nagasaki bombing, had 2 children together. Yamaguchi continued to work as an oil tanker designer for Mitsubishi. Initially, he was satisfied with just having survived both atomic bomb explosions relatively in one piece and tried to put the experiences behind him. As he aged though, Yamaguchi began to develop strong feelings regarding the proliferation of nuclear weapons. On top of writing a book about his experiences, along with a book of poetry, Yamaguchi appeared in the 2006 documentary Twice Survived, the Doubly Atomic Bombed of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. When the film was screened for the United Nations, he pleaded for the abolition of atomic weapons. Becoming more and more vocal about his feelings over nuclear disarmament, Yamaguchi stated, "I can't understand why the world cannot understand the agony of the nuclear bombs. How can they keep developing these weapons?" Tsutomu Yamaguchi was diagnosed with stomach cancer in 2009 and later died of the disease in January 2010 at the age of 93. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching Things You Might Not Know. If you enjoyed today's video, please leave a like and a comment down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that bell icon so you get notified every time I post a new video. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and you can see a playlist of Things You Might Not Know videos over here. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.